Colorado just conducted spring practice number 11. We've got some roster updates to go through. We had a chance to talk to Brett Bartoloni, who's one of those positions that has lost a player this spring off the roster, but he had some very positive comments about Savell Small's development, and we got a good glimpse into that group.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's a group that gets overlooked a lot because it hasn't been used a ton, and, I would say there's not a lot of star power in that group, right? There's not big names that you look at in that group. But, Savell Small starting off, he was asked about, his progression, and he just kind of started beaming about Savell and how much better he looks and the growth from last year. And he even said the growth from spring practice 1 to now is just off the charts and how coachable he is. And when you listen to him, even with some of the moves they've made at tight end, I've still got to think Savell's that guy because he was their top guy last year, and if he's getting even better, I see potential in Savell. Like I think that's a guy that could be, a tight end. I mean, you and I talked about, I think last year, but like Nick Costa comes to mind from years ago. There was a defensive end, a 5-star defensive end here, and didn't always pan out defensive end, so he switches to tight end his final year. It was actually really good and got drafted as a tight end. Savell, I don't know if he gets drafted, but I feel like he's that way to me in that he found a home where he didn't have it on defense, and he's maybe found a home there at tight end, and so that's good to hear.
And a lot of credit to Savell Smalls, a 5-star guy that is willing to make that position change last year because, as Bartoloni talked about, it was a big transition for him. And when you put it in the perspective of that he was a converted defensive player and he was their best tight end, I think you would say last year, it does make you kind of think like maybe we weren't giving him enough credit coming into this offseason as a guy that should make that next jump.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people were looking at, well, who else can they get, at tight end? But, Savell might be that guy. And, I mean, the one guy they've really gone out and got is Zach Atkins. Yeah, I can remember Zach, but Zach Atkins from Northwest Missouri has come in, and they like him as well. He's finally getting back. He was out for a little bit, but Coach Bartoloni says he really likes how he he does a little bit of everything, right, and he's aggressive as well. So I think the two of them could be a pretty decent combination for the Buffs.
Yeah, and I love the chip that Zach has on his shoulders that he's shown up with, and he's been one of the leaders in the weight room this offseason. So you feel good about those two guys. Now, you start thinking about the transfer portal. It's going to open up to non-graduates next Wednesday. That's a position you got to bring somebody in to fill in with Sam Hart no longer being in the program. Had a torn ACL last season, and it would be a guy that you'd like on your roster, but I don't know if he would have been number 1 or 2 on the depth chart.
Yeah, I'm not sure he would have played a whole lot. He didn't play a lot before he got hurt last year on offense, and obviously they didn't use the tight end a ton with all the receivers, but Sam was behind Savell last year. So hopefully I would like to see them at least get one more tight end, a guy that's got some experience. I mean, what do you think? I mean, do they need like a veteran tight end, a senior type, or what would you like to see out of that?
Well, when Bartoloni says that Corbin Lazier should be going to prom in a week, and Zane DeSouza is not on campus yet, I think you've got to take hopefully one really good tight end that can compete with Savell Smalls and Atkins for that starting spot. I think that's what you got to be looking for.
Yeah, and we'll see if those guys are out there. And I don't expect tight end to be like a big pass catching position, but I feel like it's going to be a bigger role in this offense this year, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, even Savell, it seemed like he had his first down catch every game. It was like, oh, Savell's got his catch. We're probably not going to get another one of those, but it seemed like one a week.
Yeah, there was times in games like he might catch one in the first quarter and be like, well, that's his catch for the day, and he wouldn't get another one. And so yeah, I'm curious to see how they use the tight end this year. Like, will it be more? I mean, will you see a tight end, whether it's Savell or somebody else, have a 3-catch day, a 4-catch day? And, I don't remember if Savell was ever really targeted in the red zone. Obviously, teams use the tight end a lot in the red zone. Is that something that could be a factor this year? So I'm just curious to see what it's going to look like. We know the offense it's the Shermer offense, but it's going to look different in some ways. I'm curious what that part of it's going to look like.
I still think you're going to see a little bit more 11 personnel this year, even though right now the depth at tight end maybe you don't feel great about. But I still think there's going to be more of an emphasis on that look.
Yeah, and I don't see a whole lot of 12 personnel coming out of this team, but I think we'll see more 11 than 10 than we saw last year, right?
Well, you can always throw an offensive lineman too if you're going 12 personnel, which they've done at times in the
And
past.
they've got some big ones.
They do.
You know, they do have some big guys back there that you throw in somebody that's 320 pounds to block in on a short yardage situation. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Among the big guys on this football team, we got a chance to talk to one of them. Zy Chrysler, transfer from Illinois. He looks the part. He started, I think it was 24 games at Illinois, 22 as a guard, 2 as a right tackle. It looks like he's worked at both here at Colorado, but maybe guard might be more the natural fit for him going forward. But he certainly got the versatility and the size to do either.
Yeah, I asked him where he's most comfortable, and you could tell he probably had something in mind, but he decided to go with the politically correct answer and said he's comfortable wherever they put him. But he's a guy at his size. Just right off the top right here, I would say I'm comfortable putting him wherever he wants to be because of his size and his experience. I mean, he mentioned when he first got in here, one of the first things they talked to him about was running the ball, and they said we need to run the ball. He's like, well, I come from the Big Ten where we run the ball, so that's a good thing. And so, to me, I like the fact that you've got a Big Ten offensive lineman in here that knows how to run the ball.
I think behind Jordan Seaton, Zy Chrysler maybe is one of the guys that maybe I don't know if it's in pen yet, maybe in pencil as a starter on this O-line.
I would think so. I mean, those are the two I would mark down. So yeah, those are good. Let's figure out the rest of the spots. Cash maybe would be in that other spot just because of how much they like him here. I know he's out right now, so he hasn't been playing as much. But Zarian McGill's been in there. I would think experience-wise, Zarian's there, but they like Cash so much that I wouldn't pencil in anybody right now. But yeah, I would say Jordan and Zy are probably the two.
And Mana Tayamani's gotten a lot of run, too, with the first-team offensive line this spring. Lastly, we had a chance to talk to Kevin Mathis. That's always a fun day for us as media because he's not a coach. He wants to go to his office and coach. He's not big on the media, but when we get him, he's fantastic. I felt like we learned maybe as much in that interview as we have with any coach this spring.
Yeah, you mentioned it's funny. It's a fun day for the media. Well, there's only been 3 of those fun days or so since he's got here because he doesn't like to talk, and I respect that. But you're right. Whenever he does, he's really good. And I was glad we got him because we've been hearing so much about Coach Mathis and how valuable it is. Like Robert Livingston, go back to last season, talked about just how much Mathis was kind of his right-hand man as far as what do you call him, the red zone guru, and just we hear so much about his teaching ability, and so he was able to talk about that a little bit. And he's got a really talented group. You don't have Travis Hunter anymore, but we've talked about it before. You still have, DJ McKinney and Colton Hood and R.J. Johnson has taken that step that we've talked about, and obviously Preston Hodge, who's not really competing much in spring right now, but he mentioned Preston. Kind of got that new lease on life as far as college football because he thought he was done. He's here now because of that JUCO rule, and he sees a different hunger in Preston Hodge. He goes, I bet we see a different type of guy this year.
And there's so much pressure on that group because of how much press man they can play because of how talented they are at that position. And that kind of trickles down to the rest of the defense. That allows Robert Livingston to be more aggressive up front. And so you'd like to see that be the case. And I think they do have the personnel to do that. Bakari Vickers is not going to be one of the guys part of that anytime soon. He recently had surgery with them, but he's a guy you kind of forget about because he comes in, transfer from Oklahoma, highly regarded out of high school, dealt with some injuries during his time with the Sooners, did play a little with them, so got a little experience, and was a guy that, until R.J. Johnson made that switch, maybe you thought maybe going into spring ball that would have been your fourth guy at that position. Yeah,
and Coach Mathis said he's probably not going to see him until the fall, but he's a guy that I look at and say that's pretty good depth, right? And it's hard to judge right now because we haven't seen him really this spring, but I'm curious to see him in the fall, and hopefully the bigger thing is hope he gets healthy. I think it was heart surgery, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully he's healthy and ready to go and able to compete in the fall.
Coach Mathis was also asked about the safeties, talked about Carter Stoutmeyer really having a good grasp of this defense. Again, more praise for Ben Finiseth. And who am I? Tafik Bayard, another guy that's been very consistent since he transferred in from USF. No Savion Riley, not in the program anymore. Started a game last year, but kind of fell off. And I don't know if out of favor is the right word, but he wasn't a guy that was on the field a whole lot the rest of last season.
Yeah, and Savion, obviously, I think it was game 1. When was it Cam that went down game 1 early? And and Savion had a really good game, but we didn't see him a whole lot after that. So I'm not sure what happened there, but he was one of those guys that I was looking at and being maybe a guy that steps up. But yeah, again, you look at that safety room, and Tawfiq Byard is there, and Ben, and some of those guys. Like, I'm not sure how much he would have played anyway.
Yeah, still a position you need some depth though.
You do need,
and you get
he would have been a really nice depth piece, and I don't know if he would have started, but he's a guy that you definitely want on the roster, in my opinion, because if somebody goes down, that's the guy that I would like out there. But you hope that Carter, Stoutmeyer, Tawfiq Byard, Ben, all those guys stay healthy.
And just lastly, it's kind of like typical around here. A running back leaves late during spring ball.
Yes.
Isaiah Gustave, I thought, was their most talented back, so you don't want to spin it too much here. Marshall Falk is their position coach, and the portal's opening, so it's kind of like let's see how this plays out in my mind. But at the same time, I was really looking forward to seeing what Isaiah Gustave could have done in this offense this fall.
Yeah, me too. I think Isaiah's talented. I think that given an opportunity to be the guy, I think he's a 1,000-yard back type of guy. That he flashed it last year. I mean, he averaged, I think, 4.6 yards a carry, something like that, and at times really looked the part. And you're like, wow, I want to see more of Isaiah Gustave. And there were a couple games you got it, but not a whole lot. And so, for whatever reason, I guess it didn't work out here. And hopefully, he goes off and finds a good home. He's got a daughter at home, and so you hope that. And this day and age, maybe he's getting some money too that could help out with his daughter. And so hopefully that's the case for him.
So, yeah, some roster movement, but this is what we've gotten used to around here. And, again, the portal opens next Wednesday. We'll be back next week with more analysis as Colorado enters the final week of spring ball.